Getting older can sometimes suck, and getting older in the age of social media definitely sucks. If you're tired of people telling you to age gracefully, then you're in the right place. This is all about living your best life at any age. First rule, don't call me ma'am. Hey everybody, I'm Jodi Miller, and this is Don't Call Me Ma'am. Don't Call Me Ma'am. And I am so excited about my next guest, and I know I say that a lot, but I honestly could not wait for you to come onto the show. This is very exciting. Don't call her ma'am either, please. Don't call, unless we're in the military, don't call any woman ma'am. We just never want to hear it. I'm so excited for her because I personally am entering the next phase of my life. Some might call it awesome, but others call it menopause. And she is a menopause expert. She is so knowledgeable about menopause, perimenopause. She founded the course Fearless Vagina. Oh my God, it's amazing. I'm gonna have obviously all the info listed with this. Start clapping right now, and by that I mean pull over to the side of the road. If you're driving, you gotta be safe. For Ellen Dolgen. Yay!
I'm so happy to be here. By the way, you can call me the vagina whisperer.
Oh my God.
Because that is what my husband calls me, and I boldly told that to Katie Couric on national TV.
Oh my God, what did she say? What was her reaction?
She loved it.
I love it too. I was saying before, you have the Fearless Vagina course, and my vagina is already fearless. I wish my vagina would be a little more fearful so that I didn't have sex with the wrong assholes. Do you know what I mean? Like my vagina's like, I don't trust him. I'm gonna pull back a little.
That's a different course.
Oh, that is a different course. Different course, different episode. Vagina Whisperer is amazing. I'm sure some guys are thinking this is a different show. It's not, but still pay attention.
Yes.
Okay, so please give me your backstory. How did you even get into this? And also, thank God that you are into this, because as I'm entering this phase of my life, and all of my friends are too, there's just so little we know about menopause, which really pisses me off, because if a man went through menopause, this would have been figured out how long ago? All right, so tell me, how did you get into this? What is your journey? Let me hear it.
Well, actually, I wish the journey had a little more humor to it.
Oh, we can add it.
It actually is really sad.
Oh, okay.
I was in my 40s.
Okay.
And in the middle of a business meeting, mid-sentence, I started losing my train of thought.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh my God, I must be exhausted. I didn't realize I was so exhausted. I'm kind of like the energy bunny.
Right, me too.
I have a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so exhaustion wasn't really part of my life, but okay. And I thought, well, it'll pass. Well, instead of passing, it got more and more frequent, and it happened during business meetings, during social events.
Like just like completely like lost train of thought, or like word recall?
No, nothing, blank.
Oh, wow.
Lost train of thought.
Oh my God.
Couldn't grab my thought, couldn't grab my words.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is really scary.
It is really scary. Then my next symptom was insomnia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like I was sleepless, but not in Seattle with Tom Hanks. I was like really sleepless, up all night. And the only people that were thrilled about this was capitalism, because I was buying things.
Oh my God.
You have no idea the stuff that came to our door. I mean, like knives that were going to help me make a radish into a flower. I suddenly needed that.
I need it all the time. Oh my God.
That. And then the stupid knife came. It was plastic. I was like, it couldn't even
So
cut
you
anything.
never made a radish flower?
I never did.
Ugh,
No.
waste.
And to try to send those things back in those days.
You can't. Oh yeah, you can't.
Yeah, and we're talking a while ago, because I've been at this for 20 years. So here's the thing. It took me 4 years to find out that nothing was wrong with me, that I wasn't in the early stages of dementia.
I've definitely Googled that, by the way.
Or Alzheimer's disease, that I didn't have a serious problem. And I'll tell you how I found out. I was at a friend's house who happened to be retired gynecologist.
Oh, okay.
And we were doing dishes after a dinner party, and I was washing or drying, I think I was drying the wine glasses, and all of a sudden I broke out into tears.
Oh my God.
Like somebody's cat died or something.
I'm glad you said cat and not dog, because this is a cat-loving podcast.
I get it. I purposely said that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And subtle as it is. And so what happened was he comes over to me, he goes, Ellen, what's going on? And I said, well, I can't think, I can't sleep, and now I'm crying in your kitchen. I can't control my emotions. I'm like, really, I think I'm in the early stages of dementia. Don't tell my husband.
Right.
And he said, Ellen, puts his arm around me. Ugh. You're not experiencing dementia, I'm pretty sure. You are in perimenopause. So let me explain to you the reaction I had.
Yeah. Did that just make you cry harder?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here's how effed up I was. And I think we all are about aging.
Yes, we all are.
I was like,
it's a shit show.
Joe, you think I'm in menopause? I'm in my 40s. I was so insulted.
Yes, that's every girl's reaction, by the way.
I'm like, what are you saying? I was annoyed. I was mad. I stopped crying. And I just got mad. And he goes, Ellen, calm down, calm down. This is the actual age that a woman goes through perimenopause. This is a stage that you go through. It's like, can be 2 to 10 years before you reach menopause. I'm like, what? I honestly, I thought menopause happened like when you were like way over 65 and you just stop menstruating. I mean, who likes to menstruate?
Exactly.
It's a pain in the ass.
No
well,
one,
not really, the vagina. And the thing is that I literally had to pack my period suitcase every time I took off on a trip because it changed and my schedule changed and it would show up on every vacation.
Right, of course.
Including my honeymoon.
Oh my God.
Yes, really. So I'm like, I can't wait for menopause.
Right.
But no one told me about this stuff, you know.
No,
like
nobody talks about it at all, by the way.
So that's when I got really pissed off. And I decided I was going to do something about that. Like, why wasn't I educated? Why aren't other women educated on this? I was furious. So I decided to write a book, the book I was trying to find. Because at the time, there's different books now, but at the time, the books were really written by medical professionals, kind of for medical professionals. I got them, but they were way above my head.
Right.
And I was gaining weight, and I thought, I don't need to know about the glucose index. Just tell me how to get this weight off.
Right.
I was so upset. Everything was changing, you know? So I just decided to do that, and luckily for me, my son's a great writer.
Right.
And so I called him. He was at NYU at the time, and I said, Jack, do you think you can help me with this book? I'm writing a book, and I'm going to have it done by Thanksgiving, when you come home for Thanksgiving vacation. He goes, sure, Mom, right? So he walks in the door, and I'm so excited to show him my book. Mm-hmm. He goes, okay, show me the book, Mom. I said, I can't wait for you to read the book. And he's like walking to the desk where my computer is. I said, no, it's in the living room on the floor. He goes, you hand wrote the book, Mom? I never.
By the way, that's not a symptom of perimenopause.
No.
She's just someone who wrote a book.
Technologically challenged.
Okay, so that's something completely different. Everyone.
Never did. I wasn't in charge of that in our business. I didn't write the stuff. I didn't use Word docs. And none of that. So I should have asked somebody. Hey, hello. But anyway, so Jack picked the book off the floor, and he helped get it into Word doc
into the computer.
And he actually helped me write the first book, the second book, and the third book. We pen named the first 2 books something else because I didn't think it would look great to have a woman and their son write a book on menopause, but and so anyway, long story short, we self-published one book. It got picked up by Hyperion Voice, a division of Disney ABC. We started Menopause Mondays, my trademark blog, and then pushed forward after being on all kinds of national TV and radio and in publications and traveling around talking to corporate America and their employees. I was encouraged to create a menopause course that women could take on their own in their own time.
Yes.
And they could go back and re-listen to it, and they could really get what they need to not go through what I went through. Right? So the course is really for the person before they reach perimenopause, meaning the 35-year-old.
Right.
And then it's for the woman who's going through perimenopause. And then it's for the woman who's arrived at menopause. The average age is 51, average. Okay, that doesn't mean that some women don't go through it earlier or later. And then post-menopause is the very next day after you arrive in menopause. When you've been without a period for 12 consecutive months, that means no breakthrough bleeding at all. If you have any, you have to start the clock over.
Okay.
The reason why I emphasize this is because you can still get pregnant. So if you've been without a period for 6 months, if you've been out without a period for 6 months, and then all of a sudden have some sort of breakthrough bleeding, you have to start the whole clock over. Otherwise, you are definitely vulnerable.
Yeah, you could be a new mom like I am at 49. Yes. But that didn't happen to me. I adopted my daughter. We know that. Yeah. So, I mean, this is why it's so good because, I mean, first of all, menopause, and I talk about it a lot on stage. The second I even mentioned menopause, you see all the men just like, it's the other M word next to ma'am that we've been saddled with that everybody it's just terrible. We don't talk about it. Stick that old lady in the closet. Yeah. Let's not just, you know what I mean? Exactly. Now start knitting. We don't want to talk to you. You're irrelevant.
You're invisible.
You're invisible. You're totally invisible. We already felt that the second we turned 40, whatever. It's ridiculous that is even the case. It's not the case. It's like, I think people, especially men, and this is not a man-bashing podcast, but a lot of people are like, oh, you're so emotional because you're bleeding, you have your period. And then the second we stop bleeding, they're like, oh, no, go away. Like, you're invisible. It's like ridiculous. We can't win. For me, I didn't even know about perimenopause until my gynecologist, thankfully, sort of educated me on that when I was trying to get pregnant. And then I was obviously getting older and older. And then, surrogacy and adoption were becoming the options. And we were talking about it. Now, just so you know, she was like, you're in perimenopause now. And I'm like, what? And I talk about it in my special about how perimenopause is like a trailer to a movie that nobody wants to see. Exactly. It's like a preview of what's to come. You know what I mean?
No one wants to watch.
Then no one wants to watch. It's like a horror movie, but with a lot less blood.
That's why the trailer doesn't exist.
That's right. That's why no one can find it. It's like, that's right. Nobody wants to see it because they've hidden it. They're like, don't let these women see this.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. We think we're going crazy. I've Googled everything. I've taken the tests, the memory tests to see if I have early onset Alzheimer's or dementia. Yeah. Because you really, and as someone like myself who speaks for a living, I'm on stage. Yeah. If I can't grab a word, it's fucking frightening. Exactly. And you were in a meeting and you went blank. You're talking to people. You're like, what am I trying to say? It's really scary. I also didn't know I suffer from PVCs. For those of you that don't know, it's an extra heartbeat. And it's very, very common. A lot of pregnant women have it. A lot of people have it in general, but I have a very common kind, but it scares the shit out of me. It was happening. Now we know, because I started hormone replacement therapy, that it correlates with my cycle and my hormones. And because I was in perimenopause when they started really happening. We did the EKGs, we did the MRIs, but nobody thought of like...
You and a lot of women.
Nobody was like, oh, let's test her hormones and see what. No. So they put me on I went on the pill completely separate. My gynecologist was like, let's try to mask some of your symptoms of perimenopause. Again, not putting it together. And guess what? My PVCs went away. I still didn't put it together. Mm-hmm. I just was like, oh, I'm on the pill. And then when I went off the pill to test my baseline estrogen, they came back. With a vengeance. Yep. And then we were like, oh, wow. And then the second I started putting the patch on, I was like, oh, my goodness.
I will be going to my grave. Well, no, I think I'm being cremated because my kids said they didn't want to visit the grave.
They don't want to visit.
So why
they just want to keep you in the house?
Yeah, no.
My mom's in my house.
I don't know. I suggested jewelry. No one thought that was a great idea. But I read about that.
No, we did that for my mom. So my mom was cremated.
Do you have jewelry?
Her best friend. No, I have her in like a wine box that everyone's like, is that wine? I'm like, it's my mom. It's only half of my mom. My brother and I split her, but I got the bigger half.
Okay.
And then her best friend, we put into a pendant. Yes.
Oh, interesting. Well, that could be an idea. I was just saying that, how lovely to wear me on your wrist or
beautiful.
Something. But anyway, but no, I mean, this is what your story is so many women's story, by the way. And I will go to my grave or be cremated with my patch on.
Yes.
It is never coming off.
It's ridiculous.
Yes. And women need to know the facts.
Right.
So they can base their health care on facts instead of fear, which is why I have the menopause course.
Yes.
That you can find it at ellendolgen.com. And the reason why I have it is because it is my way of saying to other women, we're done.
Yep.
We're done with this. You need to know this stuff. And I worked and interviewed the specialists and the professionals.
Right.
I go to the
You
North
did the
American
work.
Menopause
You did it.
Society. I have all the studies. It was vetted by, doctors, and the course is accurate, and it will literally tell you how to handle premenopause. In other words, I still want to have a baby, but I'm 40.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Are there tests that I should be checking to see whether my eggs are still viable?
I did those tests, by the way, yes.
Okay. Number 2, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. I teach you everything you need to know about hormone therapy and what you can do if you aren't comfortable with hormone therapy.
And some women are not.
And that's totally fine. But a lot of women are uncomfortable because they don't know the facts.
A lot of women are just uncomfortable talking about this. I mean, sure, it's gotten definitely more in the forefront with social media. People are talking about it more. And I think you're seeing a lot of your favorite celebrities. I like to point out, like, if menopause is making you uncomfortable, I want you to remember that Jennifer Aniston, Halle Berry, J-Lo, they're all in menopause.
Paltrow, everybody.
Like, they're in there. And
They're
at
all
least
talking about
they're
it.
all talking about it because, again, it's not when you
enough.
think of menopause. It's like enough. We shouldn't, it's the misinformation too, or the lack of information and the shame behind it. There's a weird shame spiral that happens that women, because
Totally.
we're getting older. And the truth is that it's already a mind fuck to deal with our aging face. And we've got so many things that we're open about get your Botox, get your fillers, which I do, get all your stuff. But we're not talking about what's happening inside of our body. And it's great that you look great out here, but if you are just dying inside,
Right.
you need to address that. Because then this doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
I mean, I really think there's a menopause revolution going on.
I really do too.
Right now. And I feel like I'm one of the leaders of it. I've been talking about it for like 20 years. When
You were talking about it before anybody was really...
CBS Sunday Morning, Jane Pauley show reached out to me this year and said, we're doing a segment on menopause. Thank
Right.
goodness she did that. It was wonderful. It was
So great.
really long. She said, we want, to film one of your Menopause Mondays parties. I said, great. So she said, but you've been talking about it before anybody else. And I said, yeah, because nobody should suffer in silence. My motto is suffering in silence is out, reaching out is in. If you reach out and are empowered with the right information, you do not have to suffer. I stopped suffering because that doctor took me and had lunch with me and taught me everything.
Right.
And he educated me. And then I wanted to educate others.
Right.
And every woman I've touched, which has been many around the United States, no longer is suffering.
And that's amazing because if you think about... And I do a history show, a comedy history show, and I go back to the 1600s and the Vikings. Even obviously life expectancy wasn't as long as it is today. There are obviously many people that did live long enough to experience menopause, but no one even knew what that was. So people were called witches. They were, they were committed to insane asylums. They were, they had to go see therapists. They were put on a lot of drugs because they were experiencing
Even
things.
shock therapy.
Yeah, shock therapy. I'm sure lobotomies. I mean, I'm sure so many women, nobody knew what it was, by the way, back then. And then when they did start understanding it, they didn't know that there was all of these symptoms. I'm sure symptoms have changed just because what we put in our body has changed. Probably obviously for the worse. A lot of things can contribute to I think increased symptoms. But I look back and my mom never talked about it. I mean, she barely told me anything about my period, but she never talked about that. And I don't know what her mom ever did about it. So she just suffered in silence. Did she? I mean, I don't ever remember.
My mom never spoke of it.
She never spoke of it. There was nothing. Never spoke. And by the way, you have a hot flash. You don't fucking forget that. It is like someone sticks a match in your belly button and your entire body goes up in flames. Now, I was really lucky that I did my symptoms on perimenopause were masked by Loestrin, which is the lowest form of. I'd never been on birth control in my entire life, so I was nervous.
You were on hormones.
Yes, so I was nervous, but I went on. I was on hormones basically,
Right.
but I was still bleeding, so that we needed to do that until yes, I didn't have a period. Then that month and a half that I was on nothing.
You got a taste of it.
Oh my God! It was the muscle. It was the joint pain. As if I had worked out straight for 24 hours. I couldn't sit. I couldn't sleep. I was like hot, cold, and I'm raising a toddler. So I called my gynecologist up and I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
No. Whatever we have to do. And she started me at the lowest dose, and now we've adjusted and I'm on like the perfect dose. But within 3 days, and I know that might not be for everyone, it was gone. Like it was almost all gone. And I was like, oh, here I am. You know what I mean? Like,
And not to mention that menopause can really mess with your relationships.
I can't,
So, intimacy is an important part
That
of
is, yes.
relationships. Whether you are in a same-sex marriage or
Right.
you have a lover or you're with a man, I don't care who you're with. Doesn't matter to me. It can mess with your intimacy.
can.
And here's the issue. Women don't understand that's fixable, like within 2 weeks.
Yes.
That they don't understand that local estrogen therapy, which is delivered vaginally,
Yes.
is like the magic fixer.
Yeah.
And they try moisturizers and lubes are great. And yes, you can maybe use those too.
Right.
But if you have serious issues
Yes.
with vaginal tearing and bleeding and dryness and UTIs and chronic UTIs
Right.
and, just pain during sex.
Right.
You need to go and educate yourself
Right.
what the options are. I have all the information for women in this course because there's no reason for you to be suffering.
There's no reason.
And also, what is also important is, I'll tell you a funny story. I had this woman, she was 85, reach out to me.
She needed to
was-
have sex. She was like, I gotta have sex.
Listen to this. Widowed for 5-6 years. She said, I got cobwebs down there, Ellen. I don't know. No one's been down there for 6 years. I don't know. And somebody wants to fix her up on a date. And she's like, I don't know. What if I'm going to have sex? I was dying.
That's amazing.
On the first
85
date.
on the
Okay.
first. Well, why not at that point?
At the hell. And so I said, well, first of all, do you get a yearly checkup at your gynecologist? Oh, no, because I'm not having sex anymore. I said, wait, what? What? No, that is a body part.
Yes.
It is not just here for sex.
Yeah.
It is here like to have vaginal good health.
Yeah.
It will affect your urine, your bladder, your everything. You can't not get checked. She goes, I don't know. I don't have any symptoms. I said, really? I said, do you have any issues with leakage? She goes, oh, yes, I've been wearing a pad for 5 years at 80. So since 80 to 85, she's been wearing a pad.
Oh, my God.
And it never thought to her that there might be a problem.
Right.
Okay, that can be fixed. Sometimes that is caused by needing...
So like urgency, stuff like that?
can be caused by needing local estrogen therapy. It's so dry that you start having all these issues.
Oh.
I said, okay. I need to find you a menopause specialist. Where do you live? So I, of course, tried to find her one that I could get her in immediately, too. Because
she had a date, guys. She had a date.
She's 85.
She's down to fuck everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So anyhow, 2 weeks later, I get an email from her. Thank you so much. I love that doctor. She was she saw her during her lunch hour. I mean, who can get into a doctor in a week? Nobody.
Nobody.
Okay. I said, okay. But the doctor loved the story. So anyhow, she said, the good news is that I do not need my pad anymore. The bad news is I didn't like that guy. I love this story.
Oh my God.
But that's the thing. Women think that they no longer need to go and get checked by a gynecologist. You really do every
you
year.
need to go to all your doctors, and
Yes.
that is just like a fact. Like,
Yes.
don't start ignoring any part of your body. Please do not do that. I mean,
Yes.
don't stop getting mammograms. Don't stop seeing your gynecologist.
100%.
It's a part of your body that everything is connected. You need to take care of yourself, and you need to be like this 85-year-old and get some sex.
Yeah.
She has a better sex life than I do. I want to talk about, because, well, I mean, that is something, what's funny is that while I was on the pill, the majority of it was during the pandemic, so we were all in a state of like, what's happening to our lives?
Right.
So I had no real, urge. I had no sexual desire. Because I had never been on the pill, I didn't realize that was a symptom. Because when I went off the pill, and now that I'm on hormone replacement therapy, that sort of came back. And now I'm like, oh my God, I forgot. I do want to have sex. You know what I mean? I didn't even put those together.
Yes.
So that is a huge thing. I just didn't think about it. Well, again, because it was during the pandemic, I wasn't dating anyone. So, of course, sometimes for women, we just sort of like, whatever, it's me and my cat.
Right.
And then I became a mom, so that was the last thing on my mind. And
Right.
now
You're
that...
exhausted.
Yes, I'm exhausted. So now that she's a little bit older and I'm on, HRT, I'm like, oh my God, there it is.
Awake.
Yes, my body is waking up, which
Well,
is
there's
good.
always, vibrators until you find the perfect.
Yes, I hope that 85-year-old knows that.
Yeah, I told her.
You did? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
of course I did.
So, let's talk about that, though, because I think a lot
I might have sent her one, actually.
Oh my God, guys. Let's talk about you're talking about the vaginal inserts, which I don't actually use. I use the patch and the progesterone, but I know some people also use the testosterone mixed in with that. I mean, what are your thoughts about each one of these therapies?
Okay, well, every woman is different.
Of course,
right?
absolutely.
So there's no one size fits all, right? So every woman needs different replacement. And I tend to call it hormone therapy because you're not replacing all your hormones. Right. I don't want women to think they have to take so much.
Right.
Like you start low, that's a good doctor.
Yes.
Starting low. Yes. Working incrementally. Yes. If you have had a hysterectomy, of course, you don't need progesterone.
Yes.
You just need estrogen replacement. If you're haven't had any surgeries, vaginal surgeries, you're going to still need to have estradiol and progesterone. Mm-hmm. Testosterone is. They're learning more about this now.
Yes.
So in the olden days meaning, 10, 15 years ago, they would say if your libido is crashing, maybe give the woman some testosterone, which, by the way, is not FDA approved here for women. So they give you off-label men's testosterone at a tiny, tiny dose, like a pea size. Yeah. Or you can get a cream, compounded cream.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. But they really weren't understanding the full role that testosterone has in brain health. Mm-hmm. So they're now doing more research on this, and that it actually is an important hormone for not just libido, but also for your brain and also even bone health. So some women now are taking low doses.
Do you take that?
Of that, yes, I do.
And you find it
low
beneficial.
dose.
So my doctor, and I do love my doctor, she's very diligent in what she does, and we made sure we were on the right path. We started a low dosage. She doesn't prescribe testosterone, but she's not against it. She's self-admittingly doesn't understand enough about it. She has other people in her office that do. So we are taking it one step at a time, and if we feel like that's where we need to go, then she would refer me to someone who is more of an expert in that. She just doesn't want to be like, yeah, let's do this. If she's still doing the work now to really, she's also someone who's just like, I can't believe there's not more, she's very knowledgeable about it, but it's still just an uncharted territory.
It's really helpful if doctors go to the Menopause Society and get accreditation, because they go once or twice a year if they want to go twice. I think it's just once it's mandated.
Right.
I'm not sure. But they actually listen to all the science. And you might suggest that to her, because she will learn.
I'm sure she's either going like that route.
And you can do it virtually. I do. They let me take it virtually.
Yeah, I was going to say there are a lot of things.
Because I write about it, but
it's something that I want. I mean,
you might not. You have to understand whether you need it or not. Like, for example, if your brain is functioning well, if you're able to develop muscle, so you're getting your overall health. If your libido's okay, you can talk to your doctor. Why change things that are broken? So that's kind of how, I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe, but that's kind of how I live my life medically.
Right.
If it's not broken, don't fix it, right? But, I had serious brain issues.
Yeah.
I also muscle mass ability to make
anyway
muscle
with age,
is important because it helps keep you healthier as you get older. You're still young. I'm much older than you. So again, I didn't even need local estrogen therapy in the beginning.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, I did need to add it because it started to get. I started to be dry.
Right.
And it wasn't because I didn't want to have sex. It was because I wasn't turned on. It was because I really started to need that as I got older.
Right.
That's kind of common for older women.
Right.
To need that.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I read somewhere that any woman over 65 should be on it because it really is good for your vaginal health, and that there are so many women that are incontinent, end up in nursing homes, and if they'd had local estrogen therapy, they wouldn't be incontinent.
My mom was. I didn't know until she passed away, and I found just like depends. There were so many in there, and she was just not telling anyone.
Yeah.
And again, my mom lived. That was a lot of the way she lived her life in denial.
I think it was also that
embarrassing.
generation.
It's the generation,
don't you think?
100%. Yes, it totally was.
Yeah.
And I'm not like slamming my mom, you know what I mean? I love her, I miss her.
Yeah.
I actually feel bad. I feel bad that she had no one to talk to about this.
I know, yes.
And it just, I don't even know if she had someone to talk to about this, if she would. That was her generation. It was also who she was, and she suffered from depression for many, many years. So she just, I think, she was embarrassed in a lot of ways.
And that could have been estrogen.
It could have been, but in her 20s, she suffered from depression. But back then, nobody, it just was a different time, and it makes me mad that so many women suffered. But even now, people, here's the thing. Again, with things like social media, I like to talk about that because it's a blessing and a curse. It really puts this in front of a lot of eyes, and a lot of people get to see it, and they get to see the benefits of it. It can also, seeing people, it's also social media creates a lot of the FOMO and the compare and despair and, you know what I mean, looking at stuff like that. But I think if you do your research and you find someone like Ellen, you know what I mean, and take a course like that, which I don't know of any other course.
Yeah, it's $97. I think it's less than, a night out or a couple nights out with your girlfriend.
It really is.
And you can do it in the modules. There's 5. Okay. Each one is a little over 20 minutes. Right. You can do them. You can binge. I don't suggest it.
Right.
It's better to do 1 20-minute on a walk and digest it, maybe listen to it again and do the next one and move on. And then go back to the one that actually resonates with you the most. I need to remember these things.
Right.
I also have a symptom tracker. You talk about the symptoms. I list the 35 most common. 35.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys hear that? 35. And by the way, that's why so many women, when I was...
Muscle aches, like you were talking about.
Yes, muscle aches. When I was off of off the pill, of everything, and I crashed for that month and a half. I almost went to the ER twice.
Yep.
Because of the chest, my PVCs, and my acid reflux, and the joint pain. And
anxiety of it all.
Anxiety, and the only thing that I can say for me, thankfully, and this was who I was even while I had my period my whole life. I had very, very easy period my whole life, 3 days, from the time I started it at 12 all the way till the time I stopped. It was, heavy one day, but I was never emotionally. Even during all of this, I was more anxiety because I was like, oh my God, my PVCs and stuff like that. But I'm fortunate that I don't have the roller coaster of emotions that some people do. And again, not even when I had my period. This is what I can tell you. So I got my daughter first year, right up until her first birthday, I was the same weight I had been for many, many, many years. And then right at her first birthday, I remember couldn't fit into a lot of stuff. I'd gained maybe 10, 15 pounds. And my body was just totally different. And some of it was I wasn't sleeping. I didn't get good sleep because I had a newborn and I was eating a lot of baked goods because sugar was the only thing that was but now I'm looking back. And that was a huge indication that my estrogen was crashing. I was going through it. But, right. I was in the throes of, I became, I don't know if you know, an overnight mom. I got a call and I was a mom. So it was I was going through, a very traumatic time in my life. So yes. So there was a lot of elements there.
Yes.
Now, what's very interesting is, so then, I held on to the weight. I held on to that weight.
Yeah.
I just really held on to it. I was like, I can't let it go.
It holds on to us.
It did really, actually. It was like,
Yeah.
so
It's like gum on a shoe.
it was like I couldn't get it off. I could like move it around a little bit, but it wasn't coming off.
Yeah.
Yes, just like gum on a shoe. And then right before I started the hormone replacement therapy, I actually changed the time that I was eating dinner with, I started eating with my daughter, and a few pounds started coming off. And I was back at the gym a lot more on a regular basis, getting better sleep. Now, I know this isn't the case for everyone, and I don't want people to be like, fuck you, Jodi. But I started hormone replacement therapy, and I lost so much weight. And I know a lot of women, that's their main concern, that they take estrogen again, they gain weight, and they talk about, like, the reason I lost weight, and this is something that we are still working out, although it's pretty much worked out, what happened for me when I started was my appetite completely disappeared. So everything else got better, but my appetite was gone. The only thing I craved, which was a mindfuck, was carbohydrates. I was a keto, low-carb person for 25 years, and now the only thing, I used to love a steak, a great steak, no more. I was like, what is happening to me? And I remember when we were adjusting the patch, it was one of the symptoms I told her. I go, I don't have an appetite. Sometimes I have to force myself to eat. Now, obviously, we're like, let's give it a month or two. Let's see how your body settles into it. My appetite did come back. It's just a different appetite. And it's very weird that the things I used to never crave, I now crave, and the things I used to crave, I no longer crave. And
That's interesting.
it's very interesting. But if you think about pregnant women that have cravings because their hormones are, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
For me,
it's true.
who knows how long my hormones were really out of whack? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For probably a long time, and I was working, and it was before COVID, so I was in the office a lot more in production. It is a weird symptom for me, and I'm actually okay with it. Now that I was a little nervous because here's the reality. When you're young and you lose weight without trying, you're like, I'm awesome. When you're older and you lose weight without trying, you're like, I'm dying. So
Exactly.
you're like, what the fuck?
Oh,
so
no.
when someone says you lost weight and you're like, I didn't do anything, you're like, go to the doctor. But after all the tests confirmed that I was fine, it was definitely more of a hormonal thing, and now my appetite has come back, and I've definitely tested to make sure that I can gain weight, and I can. But trust me, I can. But it's just very interesting. Like
Well,
last night,
I woke up one day and I just was like suddenly a member of the Sisterhood of the Shrinking Pants. I was like, who shrunk my pants?
Somebody came in the middle of the night and shrunk all your pants.
And
Right
I
here,
couldn't
then.
figure it out. I hadn't changed anything. I really hadn't. I mean, I'm more of an emotional eater, so I would.
was not, no.
I would say if things are upsetting, I may tend to, bake cookies a lot. But generally, I'm really healthy eater, but I did realize that when you get older, your metabolism does change.
Yes.
And I've had to adjust. Because I'm kind of a truck driver type eater, I eat a lot. So I make sure I eat a lot of things that are okay.
Yeah.
But I eat huge amounts. Like I
used to
make
too.
myself a salad, it's just
Mine used to be too.
humongo.
Can't do that anymore.
And a big hunk of protein on it.
Yeah, me too.
Because now we really know that we need to eat a lot of
Need a
protein.
And I've always been a big protein person, which is why I'm still eating a lot of protein. I'm just not eating a lot of red meat, which is fine.
Well,
whatever
red
your heart.
meat, I would say, not
Yeah.
eating a lot of red meat
Right.
is an okay thing.
Yes.
But I mean, I think fish and poultry and is probably better.
Yes, and I still do, and my appetite again, like earlier in the day, is greater than it is at night. I think.
Well, that's good.
No, it's all good
Because,
yes.
a lot of people, do intermittent fasting,
Yes, I didn't-
which helps them maintain their weight in
Yes.
postmenopause.
Right.
And some people do that by stopping eating at 5.
Right.
Or-
I'm a little bit later, and I eat earlier because she wakes up. But here's the thing: it's like I look back at my mom. My mom is very, very skinny her whole life. I don't have my mom's body.
You don't?
I'm thin, but I definitely have my grandma's body. Bigger boobs. Sorry, Mom. Muscular legs. I was an athlete my whole life. That was my body type for sure. But I look at my mom, especially at pictures, but I remember this specifically. Clearly during the time she was going through menopause, if I think about it, because I was in high school going to college and she was in her 50s, she had this gut she was very thin still, but she had this giant gut. And I remember she was like, oh, none of my jeans fit. We didn't talk about
Menopause muffin.
Yes, hers was like a bundt cake.
Okay.
It's so big. And I look at pictures of us on vacation, and she was wearing those high-waisted shorts that were terrible, and they were just like her giant. And then it went away when she was a little bit older, like in her 60s. She got very thin again, and then she passed away at 69. So I don't know what her body type is. She's very thin now. So she's super thin right now, guys. But like, I think about that time. Because she was so thin growing up when I was growing up, and then she had that like menopause time, and it was huge, and she would complain about it, and then it kind of went away as she got a little older, and it's really, and I know I think that must be one of the main concerns that people talk about.
It's a big concern. I mean, and it's actually very heartbreaking to many women that were even athletes like you know, who find that everything starts changing. It's like sort of discombobulating. You don't understand who you are anymore, and it just it causes a lot more stress.
It sure does.
And often then that triggers, you know, other bad behavior. And in addition, you know, a lot of women start drinking more, and I hate to be the bad news bears,
right.
But you know, really, alcohol is not your friend during menopause because it increases hot flashes and the intensity. Yes. And so the other thing I wanted to mention when you were talking about your heart, I don't think women understand that hot flashes aren't harmless. Right. In other words, they're a sign that your body is struggling.
Okay.
And now they've done some studies that it actually can affect your heart health.
Oh my God.
So it is really important to get educated on what the signals are that you should be looking for, what to do about those symptoms, how to find a doctor, and what to ask your doctor about. In other words, come in empowered.
Right.
You know, here's what I understand I could be doing for my hot flashes. Bing, 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 bing. Right. And then you're going to get help. But hot flashes aren't harmless.
I was really lucky. I had hot flashes, but really not many. Even when I was like no estrogen, you know, when they did baseline, I had them. They were mini ones. I didn't have a lot of
you
them.
were on hormones, so they did.
No. When I went off the hormones.
It was a short time.
Yeah, like a month and a half.
Yeah. So that wasn't, but some women stay off, right? They go off, stay off, or their doctor said, you've got to go off. You know, which is not the case now. The new science on this is that there's not an official stop where everybody has to go off hormones. No. You know, each case is different, and each woman's life is different. I, myself, will never go off my hormones. Never. Because I understand the long-term benefits of them.
I mean, I'm right there with you, and I'm educating myself now, and I just know from me, like, when the hot flashes went away, the hot flashes were not to me, they were annoying. I'd be playing with my daughter, and I would just take my shirt off. She's like, Mommy's boobies are out. I'm like, that's right, baby. But then I would be cold, and I'd put them back on. That was, to be honest with you, the very first thing. That and the joint pain were the two things that instantly went away. Within days, I was like, oh, better.
Yeah.
And that was actually the indicator that we needed to up the dose, was that I would start to feel that feeling in my tummy right before a hot flash. It would never actually blow up, but I could feel it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I would, I called her, and we would have a consult.
Tweaked it.
Yes, and we tweaked it, and now it's great. And I never had night sweats, thankfully. I definitely had interrupted sleep, and where you just wake up at 3 a.m. And there's a lot of things, by the way. I remember being on Instagram one day, and it was like, do you wake up every morning at 2:59? I'm like, I do. Click. And it was for menopause. It was hormones and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But I saw something on your page too, and I want to talk about this because right before I started all of this, right before everything with the hormone replacement, I got my yearly physical.
Yes.
And for the first time ever, my bad cholesterol was up. Not crazy, just enough for him to recommend that I start, going on a low cholesterol diet. But that was the first time.
And watch that because, heart disease is the number one
of course.
killer of women, 100%. Not breast cancer.
Yes.
Everybody thinks it's breast cancer.
It's
not. It's heart disease. Yes. And when you go through menopause, you go through the stages, your cholesterol does elevate.
Why does that happen?
I don't know the medical reason.
Right.
I just know that it happens, and the technical reason I don't understand.
Right.
But it's something you really should get checked every year and watch.
Oh, yes.
Because here's the sad truth: that women are put on statins later than men. And actually, women should go on them too.
Why wouldn't they? That makes sense. If it's the number one killer.
Because that's just the way medicine is for women right now. It's absolutely aggravating.
It really
so
is.
I have a whole section on heart disease in my course. You should. You've got to know what the risks are and what to do about them. And it's important to stay on top of that. So if your diet, which sometimes can change it.
It has changed.
Good. Then you're good. But if not, you definitely need to get an opinion of a cardiologist.
Well, I have a cardiologist and I have a specialist cardiologist because of my PVCs, so I'm on top.
You do, but
yes, but other people, you should definitely do that. I mean, not everybody. For me, I also believe that you should have a colonoscopy every year. I started early in my mid-40s because my grandmother died of it, and my dad and his family.
Well, you have reason.
Yes,
to.
I have reason to. But having said that, I think insurance should cover it, and I would gladly. I just got my second one. I would gladly do it once a year if it was one of the things I had to check up. It's just one of those things where I'm like, I'm not waiting 5 years for something crazy to start growing.
Exactly.
And I want to know everything. And of course, they're like, no, sorry, you have to just sit with it and wait till it gets to stage 4. But I'm all about, and I know not everybody is like this. And I'm not a hypochondriac at all, by the way. I could be bleeding out of my eyes.
You're just proactive.
I'm proactive because your health is your wealth, as my dad would say. I have a young child at home. I am also very energetic and, youthful for my age, and I want to remain that way.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So why not tune up the car all the time? You know what I mean? Once a year, get everything.
Exactly.
Dermatologist. Everything.
Check it all out, man.
Check it out. The vagina, people. Check out the vagina.
The vagina number one.
Yes, if the 85-year-old is checking out the vagina, then you should too.
It's so important. It's such a major part of our body, and we just overlook
really
it.
So let me ask you a question, because I have at least one friend that tried hormone replacement therapy, and she had really horrible. She's also someone that suffered from. My friend was just on talking about it, not PMS, but it's PD. It's something that's, it's way worse periods.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, she would have very terrible, horrible periods. And she went on hormone replacement therapy, and I don't know how good her doctor was, but she had suicidal thoughts. She had to go off. It just did not, she couldn't go through it.
I wonder what she was on.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like she would be on, I know. So for someone like her, who's still dealing with, certain things not as bad, what are some of the other options for people that are like, I'm not comfortable going on that, or I don't feel
well, in that case, she needs a second opinion.
Right. Well, that's what I thought.
And she also needs to make sure that the doctor was actually a menopause specialist and had some accreditation.
Right.
Because I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but only a third of gynecologists have had any training in menopause at all. They're mostly trained on delivering babies.
Yes, wouldn't that make sense though? Because they want to treat the woman until old age.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you go to the next stage of life?
Yeah, so it's like going to the wrong doctor. Women are going to gynecologists expecting they're experts, and they're not, and they're treating them or dismissing them.
Right.
And so here's my whole thing about that. If you are not getting the help you need, okay, if you are being dismissed, if you are not being respected, and listened to by your doctor, time for the divorce.
Yeah.
And you don't need a divorce attorney. You just find a new doctor. And I have a whole section on the importance of a menopause specialist and how to find one.
Okay, good.
Find a trained one.
Right.
And they're out there. And it is so important. I mean, would you go to a dentist if you broke your knee? No. So if you're going to a doctor who has no training in menopause, how do you expect to get the help you deserve?
It's ridiculous.
You can't.
It is.
So this kind of situation is kind of unusual.
Right.
And that's why I say second opinion, maybe even a third opinion, but a menopause specialist.
Now, let's just say somebody, though, doesn't want to do hormone replacement therapy. What are some other...
Oh, there are lots of other things that you can do. Now there's some non-hormonal therapies for hot flashes that actually change your brain response to heat.
Oh.
So it's not estrogen. They don't replace
Right.
estrogen. And they have worked really well. There's a couple of them out now. There's lifestyle changes you can try first, which, you can also implement along with hormone therapy.
Right.
For example, exercise is really helpful for overall health. Eliminating spicy foods, it can be helpful. Cutting back on liquor. As I said, alcohol, even though we think it helps us through the night, it really doesn't. It actually increases insomnia because of the sugar.
Yeah.
Again, I told you I don't care about the glucose. It's very complicated, the index, whatever.
Right.
All I know is if you drink, sometimes you're up at 3.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I actually do know why that happens.
Yeah.
It's so I was a bartender for a long time, and I was a mixologist, and I love learning about liquor. Not that I was a big drinker, I was just a whiskey drinker.
Yeah.
But your brain actually, it's like a computer. So it's a depressant, you're numbing things out. And then when the alcohol actually wears off, your brain starts up again.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, yeah.
Right. So it is like a pain in the ass. I used to never have that until I was older. My body also can't metabolize it anymore. So I don't drink nearly
Most
as much.
menopausal women
Yes.
that's the one thing they're
It's
pretty
really upsetting.
pretty
Actually,
sad
it's
about.
actually very upsetting. I feel
Exactly.
like we should get a pass.
I know.
I feel like they should be like, you're going through menopause, you should be able to have a drink. Like, here's the thing. I can have one drink, and that's totally fine. And again, I'm not a big drinker. But when I come off stage, I like to have my Jack Daniels. Hey, Jack. And I'm happy. But I was always able to at least have 2 without any recourse. Like, totally fine.
Yeah.
There's definitely not like 2, and I'm probably going to pay for it even before I go to bed. Even if it's like early, it's bizarre. So my body cannot metabolize it anymore.
Yeah. So there's caffeine, things that you
Yes.
could adjust.
Yes.
Caffeine, liquor intake. You can adjust how much you exercise.
Right.
You can definitely stop smoking if you smoke.
Right.
Because that will be a big game changer
Right.
in the positive if you
course.
do that. And so those are some lifestyle changes. A lot of people find, doing some meditation or breathing
Yeah.
really helps. And I'm telling you, it helps a lot because even if I'm having like a stressful day or I'm not sleeping well, I stop and I do deep breathing, like 10 deep breaths in and then out 10. And it literally can change your cortisol.
It lowers your blood pressure, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it can help you get back to sleep. So some people do it regularly as a preventative.
Right.
Or, do some TM
Right.
meditation, which is
Right.
you can do at your desk, 20 minutes of just saying the same word over and over again. Lots of things are helping women through this. And also, it's helping you with longevity.
Of course.
Yeah, so it's not something that, is trivial. It's good.
I think the biggest thing that's helping with women is talking about it.
Yes.
You need to be talking about
Yeah,
it.
thanks for doing this because I
course.
think, so many women feel like they're just all by themselves in this.
So many women do. I mean, I'm not sure I think I felt a little bit by myself, except I am not someone that doesn't talk about stuff. I talk about it on stage. I talk about it to anyone that will listen, but I'm not the norm for sure. So I will find those people because I have to know. My mom was the complete opposite. My dad and I are the same. My mom and brother, just put it away, nothing. So it's really important to talk about it. I guarantee you, someone that you know is going through something similar or can relate or knows someone, and now you know someone because you're listening to this podcast and or watching it, and you can go on Ellen's page. You can look at all of her stuff. And if you don't want to, educate your friends on that, that's your business. I think you should. But the more we talk about it,
Yep.
the less it becomes something.
A stigma.
Yeah, stigma.
Yeah.
It's
And
just,
also, women can't leave their menopause at home on the desk, on their kitchen counter. It comes to work with them,
wish we
right?
could.
So, yeah. So you need to also have menopause-friendly environments at work.
Yes.
And so it's interesting how many of the women are asking their HR department to bring me in, and I come in and I speak, and I'll tell you an interesting story
Yeah.
about that. So I'm speaking at this one company, and the women are all clearly they're like besties. They're all very close. I could see that.
Yeah.
And they were all so excited. And I sort of share my story. And then I tell them, the basic Menopause 101. And then we have Q&A. And one woman stands up and she tells her story. And it was really quite something. And the woman next to her, which clearly is her bestie, looks at her and she says, "You never told me any of this." She was so sad. She said, and the woman said, her reply was, "I didn't want to feel vulnerable at work. Like I didn't want it to get out." And she didn't even trust her bestie with the information, right? And so what was interesting about what I found talking to companies like that, where mostly the women come, I've never had a male employee come, which is sad, actually, but all the women come, and there's a lot of women in the workforce right now. The company says to me, invariably, "We have been thanked by our employees. They feel like we care about them now."
That's
and
great.
that's a beautiful thing. And also increases work productivity.
Of course
when
it
people
does.
are happy, when they feel seen.
Seen, valued.
Yeah, when there's a
understood, yes.
conversation about
Yes.
menopause and and helping them get help, so they know how to help themselves. It's like a snowball of joy.
Yeah.
As opposed to the going back, into the darkness.
Now, let me ask you this question, because you just brought up the men, although I feel like they should educate themselves for the women in their lives or just in general, but also men do go through hormonal changes
Yes.
as they get older.
100%.
And that is never talked about. That is never, ever, ever
No, they
talked
just
about.
buy a car.
Yes, they just buy a
Sports car or
Yes.
a new girlfriend.
Something they buy the new girlfriend too.
Yeah.
But yes, they do. But they do go through that, and they should.
It's called andropause.
Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So what happens to just their testosterone lowers? Correct. What other?
Yeah,
Like,
I think they lose testosterone every year as they
Right.
get older, which is accurate.
they
My
exhibit-
husband, we've been married 48 years.
oh my god, amazing.
I know. He's so lucky. And
He is so lucky.
he's still on probation, I tell him,
It's fine, fair.
So that he can
Keep him on his toes, yeah.
Got to be romantic still. But after I got myself all organized
Right.
and was feeling great, I noticed he was like a grumpy old man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you maybe should get your hormones checked. And
Right.
of course he really, his testosterone was in the toilet. So, yes, men go through andropause too. It's different symptoms.
Right.
They don't have 35. Well, actually, there's more than 35 symptoms. I only put the most common.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
I think someone told me there were 60. I don't know. Anyhow, but I'll tell you an interesting story. I was driving to LA once. I had Sirius radio on, and I was fiddling with the button. I was trying to find something new, and I came across Playboy Radio, and I thought, oh, Playboy Radio. I've never listened to that. I've never knew it was on the radio. So I'm going to see if I can learn a new position or something. Listen,
While she's driving.
no judgment. I've been married a long time, so I thought, maybe we can spice it up. So I'm listening to Playboy Radio, and there's Tiffany Granite was speaking, and it was her show, the Tiffany Granite Show. I love her. She was adorable. And I later, Googled her, and, she is a red bombshell like you. And I'm hearing men call in, and one man says to her, my wife and I are like, passing each other in the night. She doesn't want to have sex anymore. I think she's going through menopause. What is it? Do you know? And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is where men are calling
Yeah.
to get help with the women they love. They're calling Playboy Radio, this Playboy bunny. So I decided I need to get on Playboy.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. That was my mission at the time. So we reached out, and of course I got shut down. We don't talk about menopause. This is Playboy Radio. It's about sex. Yeah, hello. So I wrote back. I said, look, Tiffany told this guy that he needs to be patient, which she was right. He should buy his wife candy. No, she's already gaining weight. She's miserable. No candy. 3, buy her flowers. I said, even if she took the flowers out of the vase, poured the water in her vagina, it's still going to be dry. And sex is going to hurt. I'm going to fix it. Get me on the show. So they did. Okay, so I got booked. The producer comes on and he says, Ellen, you're only on for 5 minutes. That's it. I said, okay, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the first 4 minutes, Tiffany tells me about her dry vagina. She's a playmate.
Well, yeah.
Oh, by the way, I was naked during that interview just because I wanted to get the feel of it. I was naked in my office, which is at home.
I thought you were there with her and you were naked.
With stilettos on, and my son came in from LA because I did it in San Diego. He helped write my books and everything. He wanted to come in, and he and my husband were in the car while I was naked with my shoes on doing that.
She's naked now, for those of you listening, just so you know.
So anyway, the break happens, and I think I'm done, which is fine. I got my 5 minutes.
Right.
The producer says, Ellen, we have men pulling off the side of the road. They've got paper and pen in hand. We have a list of people waiting to ask you questions. Can you stay on the full hour? That's where men are going. There's no place for men to go either. But now you can give my course to your husband or to your lover.
Or you can just you can do that.
Do it together.
Do it together.
This is what I'm
say that.
Let's learn about this together.
Absolutely.
Help me with this.
Listen, if a guy knows, oh my God, something can help my wife enjoy sex, or my girlfriend or my partner, whatever, enjoy sex more, why wouldn't he? Of course, guys would do anything for that. So of course, do that and understand what your partner is going through.
Totally.
And for you, ladies, understand what you're going through. So you don't think you're crazy. You don't think this is the end of the road. We've gotten to a certain age. I've aged out of sex. You haven't. There are things you can do to help yourself. And why wouldn't you help yourself? You are your biggest advocate. You are the person that you're with for the rest of your life. You're the only one. You know what I mean?
And if you don't want to have sex with a partner, you can have sex with yourself.
Yes.
And that's fine too. If you don't want to have any sex, that's also fine. But take care of your vagina.
Take care of your vagina.
Because it is a body part, just like your heart and your eyes.
Yes. All right, so we're going to wrap up in a minute. I want everyone to know where they can find you. I'm putting on the Fearless Vagina hat. I'm so excited.
Oh, yes.
I did look, and I saw... I want everyone to see it.
Yes, I have lots of merchandise.
I saw the merch. I was like, oh my God, who doesn't want a shirt?
On EllenDolgen.com, there's some fun gifts for your girlfriends for Christmas.
Who doesn't want to get a shirt or a hat that says Fearless Vagina?
We got to remind ourselves that we have to stay fearless.
We do.
That's why I drink out of this glass every single day.
It says Fearless Vagina on it. How many people stop you when they see that?
Oh, yeah, everybody. And they asked, I said, it's my course on menopause. Go to fearlessvagina.com or EllenDolgen.com and learn about it.
Oh my God. I'm so glad that you came on. Also, can we just really quickly tell us about Menopause Mondays? What about, you mentioned the Menopause Monday party. What is that?
Well, first of all, I have Menopause Mondays blog.
Right.
That comes out usually every Monday. Okay. And it's free. It's free. And you can stay up on information that way too. I also sometimes speak at Menopause Mondays parties. People bring me in.
Well, what's a Menopause Monday party? Like, what is it? Should people have parties or?
Yeah, women get a group of women together and they bring me in to speak to their event. It can be a nonprofit. It can be a corporate event. It could be a, alumni. Alumni's bring me in. College alumni, just come in and talk to us for an hour.
Yeah.
And now that I have the course, I give an extra deal with the course. Right. So people can actually listen to me speaking and then have the course to go back to. And I can assure you, if you get this information, I will guarantee you that you will become a fearless vagina and get the help you need and deserve.
Guys, you heard it here. I'm going to be a fearless vagina. My daughter's definitely a fearless vagina, but she's 3.5. She has no fears. She has no fears.
Yes.
Listen, seriously.
Yes. We lose that.
We do.
We got to get that back.
It's like we have it, and then we lose it, and then and I have it, and now I got to get that back.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
She can inspire you.
She can, and I'll inspire her, and she will definitely I'll be in my 70s.
But that's okay,
Yes.
and we need to break the cycle of secrecy.
Yes.
Like I have a daughter and daughter-in-law, and they're both in their 40s.
Right.
I have 2 granddaughters, and I have a grandson. And you know what? He's learned about it. They're going to not be
Yeah, they won't. I will hope when my daughter gets there.
In the dark
she won't
about this.
know.
They're going to be proactive like we are about our health. They're going to be proactive about their menopause too. And that's really important part of our health. We're in menopause over a third of our life, really.
That's a long time, people. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so happy
so
that you
great.
invited me.
Yay. All right. This is Don't Call Me Ma'am. Don't call us ma'am. Just don't. Definitely don't call your vagina ma'am. Call it awesome every day. Tell your vagina that you love it and you take care of it. I'm Jodi Miller. I'll catch you next time.